We recently talked about the new changes that are emerging in the Power Rangers franchise, and at first there were rumors of a cancellation, but many already know that it is a possible reboot of everything. There are not many details of what the new producers will do in this possible reboot, but what should be obvious are the changes that will be in the entire look and feel of Power Rangers. For 30 years the franchise had to rely on the style of the Japanese series, and now in Cosmic Fury the Power Rangers producers could implement their own style. We could already see some new costumes for this series, although we won't talk about these costumes in this video as these will possibly not be the costumes they will use for the reboot of the franchise. Still, I want to mention these new Cosmic Fury costumes as an example of renewal, since it is the first time in history that the franchise uses its own style of costumes, and this brought consequences which can also be reflected in the reboot of the Power Rangers. When the Cosmic Fury actors showed off the new costumes, they made all Power Rangers fans go crazy. These costumes provoked extreme emotions as there is no middle ground. You either hate them or love them. These were the comments from all the fans, as many prefer the style they have seen for 30 years and others already wanted a revamp in the costumes as they have seen the same thing for so long. We know that the costume designs of each Power Rangers team is different, but the style of the costume is the same as they are created from the same material and have certain things that make them very similar. I think the only costumes that were very different were the Beast Morphers costumes, and those costumes don't even have a Power Ranger style. Maybe some people get confused when we talk about style, but Power Rangers has always had a unique and easily identifiable style. Most fans haven't seen all the seasons, but when they see a Ranger from a season they haven't seen yet, they know that this superhero is a Power Ranger. This is the same thing that should trigger any new costume, no matter what material it is made of, no matter the colors, and no matter the design. This may be one of the main concerns about the new costumes we may be introduced to in the reboot of the franchise, as they may reboot the story, the characters, the target audience of the series, but they cannot change the style of the costumes. This does not mean that they will not change the designs, materials, and colors. The style of a superhero's costume is their ultimate identification, as we can all recognize superheroes by their costume style. If the new producers change the Power Rangers costume style, I think they would basically take away the spirit of the franchise, and all they are going to have is the name. If they do this, it's basically the same as starting a new franchise from scratch, since it would cease to be Power Rangers. For many years there were many characters very similar to Power Rangers, which basically did the same thing, fought monsters, transformed, became giants, but none of them could have the success of this franchise, and this is due to the style of the costumes. The costumes obviously involve some other things, like helmets, weapons, morphers, and some extra stuff. In this channel, we had already featured some costumes created by artists outside the franchise, and we talked about the possibility of Power Rangers having these costumes in the future. I think now is the right time to start with this style of costumes, and looking at these pictures we can realize that they still have the Power Rangers style despite having changed a lot of things. If the new producers use costumes like these for the Power Rangers reboot, then they are going to change the franchise forever. With this new style, our superheroes are going to look imposing and far superior to the style they have now. This issue of costumes, perhaps many do not give it the importance it deserves, but we can use the example of the 1995 movie to understand how important this is. One of the biggest innovations that this movie had was the costumes, since they used different materials, and here the Rangers looked more powerful. This was so important that all these costumes are displayed in some places as important pieces of history, something that the other costumes of the TV series have not achieved. The producers of this movie changed the design of the costumes, including the design of the power coin on the chest of each ranger, and I think this was one of the best details. Another thing they changed was the material, and that is that no matter what the actual material is, what is important is what it can reflect in each scene. When we see the Power Rangers transformed in the movie, that material makes us feel that it is resistant, and this is what the costumes of the series do not cause. When we see that the suits in the TV series can wrinkle, that gives us the feeling that it is a very thin suit that cannot protect the Rangers. Other suits that we can use as a comparison are the suits from the 2017 movie, as this could have been the test to try to know about a new path for the franchise. This movie is very good as a standalone movie, and this is very important to say. Most of us Power Rangers fans don't like this movie to be a representation of Power Rangers. If this movie had another name and it didn't represent Power Rangers, then it would be a great movie. Unfortunately, this movie seeks to represent Power Rangers, and we had to judge it that way. Because of this, is why it was not a success, because they changed things that they shouldn't have changed, and one of these things was the costumes. When you see the promotional photos for a movie, you don't know what the movie is about, and you can only create an idea in your mind by looking at the promotional photos. In this movie, since we saw the promotional photos, it was a hard blow, since we realized that they changed the style of the costumes, and they didn't look like people with a super suit anymore. They looked like aliens. They looked like some suits with the style of other superheroes, but they didn't look like Power Rangers. This was the same thing we mentioned in the beginning of this video: you can change everything, but you can't change the style. This is going to be one of the biggest challenges for the reboot of the franchise to overcome, because even though many fans are willing to be open-minded and accept a lot of changes, we also don't want to be given something so different that we don't feel like we're watching Power Rangers. There are a lot of superheroes out there right now, but we are Power Rangers fans, and that's what we want to be given. This franchise is not just the name. This franchise has a definite style that they must respect to continue to represent our lifelong heroes. If they want to give the franchise a reboot, that's great, but use designs like these that are innovative and don't hurt the Power Rangers style. If you want a reboot of the franchise, give this video a like, and subscribe to start this reboot together in Power Rangers.